Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balava Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balava Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Pratijana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Pratijana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Guru Prabhupada ki jai. Jaya Jaya Shri Krishna, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we're continuing our reading from the Sri Caitanya-caritamrita. If you have the book and following along, then it's Madhya Lila, chapter 6. We're on text 268 right now. Sayuja Shanite Bhaktera Haya Gwina Baya Naraka Vanchaye Tabu Sayuja Nalaya. A pure devotee does not like even to hear about Sayuja Mukti, which inspires him with fear and hatred. Indeed, pure devotee would rather go to hell than merge into the effulgence of the Lord. Purport. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati has sung Kaivalyan Narakayate The impersonalist conception of becoming one with the effulgence of the Lord is exactly like hell. Therefore, of the 5 types of liberation, the 4, Salokya, Samipya, Swarupya, and Sarshti, are not so undesirable because they can be avenues of service to the Lord. Nonetheless, a pure devotee of the Lord Krishna rejects even these types of liberation. He only aspires to serve Krishna birth after birth. He is not even interested in stopping the repetition of birth, for he simply desires to serve the Lord even in hellish conditions, hellish circumstances. Consequently, the pure devotee hates and fears Sayuja Mukti, merging into the effulgence of the Lord. This merging is due to an offense committed against the transcendental service of the Lord, and therefore it is not at all desirable for a pure devotee. Let's see. So the highest aspiration for the Mayavadis is considered to be hellish punishment for the devotees. The devotees would rather be, pure devotees would rather be even staying in the material world, birth after birth, and even in hellish conditions, than to engage in the Lord's service, than to merge in this Brahma Jyoti and have no activity, no service, no relationship with Krishna. So going on. Brahme Ishware Sayuja Dueta Prakara Brahma Sayuja Hanite Ishwara Sayuja Dikara. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya continued, there are 2 kinds of Sayuja Mukti, merging into the Brahman effulgence and merging into the personal body of the Lord. Merging into the Lord's body is even more abominable than merging into his effulgence. Purport. According to the opinion of the Mayavadi Vedantas, the living entity's ultimate success is to merge into the impersonal Brahman. The impersonal Brahman, or bodily effulgence of the Supreme Lord, is known as Brahma Loka or Siddha Loka. According to Brahma Samhita 5, chapter 5, verse 40, Yasha Prabha Prabhavato Jagat Anandakoti. The material universes are generated from the bodily rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yogis who follow the principles of Patanjali accept the personality of the absolute truth, but they want to merge into the transcendental body of the Supreme Lord. That is their desire. Being the greatest authority, the Supreme Lord can easily allow many millions and millions of entities to merge into his body. The origin of everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, and his bodily effulgence is known as the Brahma Jyoti, Brahma Loka or Siddha Loka. Thus, Brahma Loka or Siddha Loka is a place where many spark-like living entities, parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are assembled. Because these living entities do not wish to keep their individual existences, they are combined and allowed to remain in Brahma Loka like so many atomic particles of sunshine emanating from the sun. The word Siddha is very significant. Siddha refers to one who has realized the Brahman effulgence and who has complete knowledge that the living entity is not a material atom, but a spiritual spark. This understanding is described in the Bhagavad Gita as Brahma Bhuta. In the conditioned state, the living entity is known as Jiva Bhuta, or the living force within matter. Brahmabhuta living entities are allowed to stay in Brahmaloka or Siddhaloka, but unfortunately they sometimes again fall into the material world because they are not engaged in devotional service. This is supported by the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 2nd chapter, 32nd verse, Ye Ravindaksha. These semi-liberated souls falsely claim to be liberated, but unless one engages in devotional service to the Lord, he is still materially contaminated. Therefore, these living entities have been described as vimukta manina, meaning they are falsely, meaning that they falsely consider themselves liberated, although their intelligence is not yet purified. Although these living entities undergo severe austerities to rise to the platform of Siddhaloka, they cannot remain there perpetually, for they are bereft of ananda, or bliss. Even though these living entities attain the Brahmabhuta stage and realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his bodily effulgence, they nonetheless fall down due to neglecting the Lord's service. They do not properly utilize whatever little knowledge they have of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not attaining ananda or bliss, they come down to the material world to enjoy. This is certainly a fall down for one who is actually liberated. The Bhaktas consider such a fall down equal to achieving a place in hell. The followers of the Patanjali Yoga system actually want to merge into the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This indicates that they do not want to engage in his service despite their knowledge of him. And thus their position is even more abominable than that of those who want to merge into the Lord's effulgence. These yogis meditate on the four-handed Vishnu form of the Lord in order to merge into his body. The Patanjali system describes the form of the Lord as klesha, karma, vipaka, shayar, aparamishta purusha, vishesha ishvara. Quote, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a person who does not partake of a miserable material life. The yogis accept the eternity of the Supreme Lord in their mantra, Sa Purvesham Api Guru Kalana Chedat. Such a person is always supreme and not influenced by the element of time. The followers of the Patanjali system, therefore, accept the eternity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yet, according to them, Purushartha Shunyanam Prati Prashava Kaiva Hoyam Swarup Pratishtava Chati Shaktir Iti. They believe that in the perfectional stage, the conception, the Purusha, is vanquished. According to their description, Chit Shaktir Iti. They believe that when one becomes perfect, he cannot remain a person. The yoga system is therefore abominable because its final conception is impersonal. In the beginning, these yogis accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they ultimately give up this idea in order to become impersonal. They are most unfortunate because although they have a personal conception of the absolute truth, they neglect to render devotional service to the Lord, and thus they fall down again into the material world. This is supported by the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 32. Aruya Krishna Paran Padam Tata Patanchado Vadrita Yushmad Angraha. Due to neglecting the lotus feet of the Lord, these yogis again fall into the material existence, patanchadaha. Consequently, the path of yoga is more abominable than the personalist path. This conclusion is also supported by Lord Kapila in the following verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.29, 13. Which we'll read. So yeah, this is interesting. The Mayavadis, they're in India. There are 6 traditional areas of knowledge. Well, actually, not wrong knowledge. But they're taught in India. There's 6 different ones. One of them is Patanjali's yoga system. Another is Sankaracharya's, impersonal one. Another is Kapila. There's an atheistic Kapila Dev who taught. He called it the Sankhya philosophy, but it was different than the incarnation of Kapila Dev. So we can go more into these, but specifically this one they're mentioning is Patanjali's system, his yoga system. So the goal of the yoga system that he taught was not actually to become Krishna conscious. The goal of his system was actually to merge into the body of God. The merge into the body of God. The Mayavadis in general want to merge into the effulgence of God, the white light, like that. But the Patanjali system, they actually aspire, their goal is to merge into the body of the Supreme Lord, which is kind of dumb, because they understand there's a personal form of the Lord, and they're worshiping Him in that form, but their actual goal is to merge into that body and not engage in any devotional service. So therefore, they are aware of they're aware of the personal form, and they were still rejecting it. The Mayavadis are not aware of the personal form at all, and they want to merge into the effulgence. They're thinking that's the highest. The yogis, the Patanjali system, they understand there's something higher, and still they want to merge into that form rather than to serve the Lord as humble servants. So that's what the problem is with that system. And Kapila Dev, the atheist Kapila Dev, which I just mentioned, he came sometime after the incarnation of Kapila Dev came. He taught a philosophy. He also called it Sankhya, but his philosophy had how many elements are there? 24, 26. Anyway, I think it's 26, and 24 of those have to do only with the material world: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego, and the 5 working senses, the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, and so on, like that. This is and more. So this is the Lord Kapila Dev's philosophy called Sankhya, the incarnation Kapila Dev's philosophy, Sankhya. It included all that, but it also included, very important, included a study of the soul and of the study of the super soul or God. And then, so the conclusion of the incarnation of Kapila Dev's Sankhya philosophy is that we engage in devotional service. So that's why Bhagavad Gita says that the goal of yoga, bhakti yoga, and the goal of Sankhya are the same, because the goal is devotional service. But the atheist Kapila, he only talked about an analytical study of the material world, and there's no discussion about the soul or the super soul. So that was the difference. Anyway, let's go on. Salokya Sarshti Samipya Swarupya Kaitvam Apyuta Dhiyamanam Grinanti Vina Mat Sevinam Janaha. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya concluded, even though he has offered all kinds of liberation, the pure devotee does not accept them. He is fully satisfied, engaging in the service of the Lord. Prabhu kahi mukti pare artahaya mukti para shabde sakshat ishvara kahaya. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, the word mukti pare has another meaning. Mukti pare directly refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mukti pare yanrase mukti para haya kimva navama padartha muktira sanghashraya. All kinds of liberation exist under the feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is known as Mukti Pada. According to another meaning, Mukti is the ninth subject, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a shelter of liberation. Purport. Lord Sri Krishna is also known as Mukunda, or he who gives transcendental bliss by offering all kinds of mukti. Srimad Bhagavatam is divided into 12 cantos, and in the 9th canto, different kinds of mukti are described. But the 10th canto is the actual center of all discussion of mukti, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who is the 10th subject discussed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, is the exclusive subject of the 10th canto. Since all types of muktis, reside at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, he may be called Mukti Pada. Dui arte Krishna kahi kene parta piri sarvabhauma kale opata kahite na pari. Since I can understand, Jai Shri Gaura Shri Radha Hari Jagannath Balaram Lady Subhadra Ki Jai. Prabhu Bhaktisiddhanta Ki Jai. Since I can understand Krishna according to these two meanings, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, what point is there in changing the verse? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, I was not able to give that reading to the verse. I was not able to give that reading to the verse. Yadyapi tomara arta e shabda kaya tatapi ashilisha doshe kahana na kaya. Although your explanation is correct, it should not be used because there is ambiguity in the word muktipada. Japi mukti shabdera haya pansha vipta rudi vitya kahe tabu sayuje pratit. The word mukti refers to 5 kinds of liberation. Usually its direct meaning conveys the idea of becoming one with the Lord. Mukti shabda kahite mane haya grina trasa bhakti shabda kahite mane haya ta ulasa. The very sound of the word mukti immediately induces hate and fear. But when we say the word bhakti, we naturally feel transcendental bliss within the mind. Shuriya Hasera Prabhu Anandita Mane Pata Charye Kaila Prabhu Drita Alingane. Upon hearing this explanation, the Lord began to laugh. And with great pleasure immediately embraced Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya firmly. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is now agreeing with Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya convinced him. Ye Bhattacharya Pade Padaya Mayavade Tanre Aiche Vakya Spure Chaitanya Pashade. Indeed, that very person who was accustomed. Indeed, that very person who was accustomed to reading and teaching Mayavad philosophy was now even hating the word mukti. This was possible only by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lokake yavad parshi hema nahi kare tavat sparshamani keha chite na pare. As long as it does not turn iron into gold by its touch, no one can recognize an unknown stone to be a touchstone. Bhattacharya Vaishnavata Rekhi Sarbojan Prabhuke Janiya Sakshad Rajendra Nandana. Upon seeing transcendental Vaishnavism in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, everyone could understand that Lord Chaitanya was none other than the son of Nanda Maharaj Krishna. Kashi Mishra Adi Yata Niwaschala Vasi Charana Lali Ila Sabi Prabhupani Asi. After this incident, all the inhabitants of Jagannath Puri, headed by Kashi Mishra came to take shelter on the lotus feet of the Lord. Yaiche Paripati Kari Paksha Nirvedana Vishtariya Age Karya Vamana. I also dwell in full. I shall also describe in full detail how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya perfectly rendered service to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by offering him alms. A Mahaprabhu Lila Sarvabhauma Milana Nihaye Shabda Kare Kare Shravana Jana Karma Pasha Haite Haya Vimochana Aichira Vilaye Panra Caitanya-caritamrita. If one hears with faith and love these pastimes concerning Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's meeting with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he very soon is freed from the net of speculation and fruitive activity and attains the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. Sri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Jara Asha Caitanya-caritamrita Class Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Caitanya-caritamrita following in their footsteps. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purports to the Sri Caitanya-caritamrita, Madhya 6th chapter, describing the liberation of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So that's the end of the chapter and the end of this particular volume. Just go into another volume starting next Sunday. We still have a little time. Are there any questions? No questions? Asking questions is good. It's a sign of intelligence to be able to ask a relevant question. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's described how the sages of Naimisharanya, they were asking perfect questions. Their questions were perfect. They were asking to Srila Sutta Goswami. Questions that would be actually beneficial for the people in general, not just their own curiosity. Okay. Could you describe the Brahmajyoti clearly, please? Brahmajyoti is nothing more than the effulgence of Krishna's body. So that's the whole spiritual world is effulgent because Krishna is there. So it's always light. It's always effulgent like that. But the Brahmajyoti, as far as we were talking about today, there are 5 kinds of liberation. 5 kinds of liberation from the material world. One of them is called Sayuja. Sayuja, that means like basically merging into the Brahmajyoti, or merging into the actual personal body of the Lord. That Brahmajyoti is not a desirable place for a devotee. The idea of Brahmajyoti is horrible. You know, the Mayavadis, they're thinking, okay, the material world there's so much problem here. It's all illusion. They think it's all illusion, and the perfection of life is to merge into this Brahma Jyoti, and then there's no more birth, death, disease, old age, anxiety, anything like that, which is true because you're there. It is a somewhat transcendental place, but it's still considered to be um, a fallen condition because real liberation means to be in the spiritual world and serving Krishna. So, so the Brahma Jyoti is anyway. It's there for those who want it, but it's not a place that you can stay forever. How long you can stay, we don't know. Uh, but the idea is that unless one has some higher taste, then he cannot stay in that Brahma Jyoti because the soul by nature is active, wants to be active, and it is active. The soul is always, we have to do something. So either we do something material or we do something spiritual. But in the Brahma Jyoti, you're just existing there. You have the experience. There's no material body. There's no activity. There's no hankering. There's no lamentation. But you're just existing there, and they consider it a sense of bliss, in a sense, because there's no material miseries. Here in the material world, we call happiness is usually you get a relief from some suffering. If you're really hungry, you're suffering. If you and you eat something, then you get some relief from that suffering. So then you think, oh, now I am happy. I was miserable before. Now I'm happy. I'm eating something. Or if you're completely, totally exhausted and you don't have time to sleep, or you have to keep working, but you're totally exhausted. It's miserable. It's a kind of suffering. But the relief from that suffering is sleeping. So that means. So material happiness is just a temporary relief from the material suffering. So the Brahma Jyoti is kind of like that. You merge there. There's no more suffering. There's no body. So there's no birth. There's no death. There's no old age. There's no disease. There's no, but there's no activity either. So, in a sense, there's as they say, like a blissful situation because there's no bodies, there's no problems, there's no hankering, there's no lamentation. It may seem like a good thing, but for one who's engaged in devotional service, even if we think, for a devotee who's thinking, no, I don't want to merge in that Brahma Jyoti. I can't serve Krishna there. There's no activity there. There's no devotional service there. So that's why it's considered to be hellish for the devotee, and it's considered to be the highest perfection by the mind bodies. Anyway, that's essentially it. And then of course the other place that one might merge is you can be merged right in the body of the Lord, not just as effulgence, but the body of the Lord. There's no problem for him, for Krishna, if someone does that. But it's really low if someone actually has the realization that God has a body, God has a form, and you want to just merge in that body and not engage in any devotional service. It's actually very low position. Okay. Any other questions? Anyone who's watching? Naveen, Nashakti, you have a question? Oh. Oh. The highest perfection for the Vaishnavas. What is it? Loka, Vrindavan, Krishna Loka. For the yes, as far as we should aspire, where we should aspire to go, the best place is Krishna's planet, Krishna Loka, which is also this Goloka Vrindavan or Krishna Loka. It's the same place. It's two different names. So that's actually the highest perfection. And Krishna is inviting us there to come and engage eternally in his devotional service. It's a wonderful place. There's no birth, no death, no disease, no old age, no material hankering, no envy. All the bad things of the material world, none of that exists there, and everything is there. Everything is perfect there. Even the fruits and the vegetables, there's nothing, there's no bad part of it. Just like if you eat here we might find a nice mango, but you have to take the peel off. You have to take the big seed out of it, like that, and then you can enjoy the fruit part of it. In the spiritual world, there are also mangoes. There are also mangoes there, but in the spiritual world, the fruits don't have seeds. The fruits don't have skins. It's just very nice fruit with nice taste, like that. That's spiritual world. There's no need for any form of suffering there, because suffering is only to convince us to go back to the spiritual world. Once we're there, everything is perfect and blissful. And then on the other side is as we're reading in the purport, the top, even though that's the highest place to be, but the pure Vaishnavas don't even really aspire to go there. They aspire to be engaged in the Lord's service. And sometimes that service brings one to the material world. Just like Srila Prabhupada, who certainly lives and is qualified, and he says he's a Vaikuntha man. He's from the spiritual world, but he came to the material world to preach Krishna consciousness, and so on. That's the idea. So the topmost perfection is to not really even care. The topmost perfection is to be ready and willing to engage the Lord's service, to be ready and willing to take birth after birth if that's what the Lord wants you to do. So when Krishna comes to the material world, sometimes the demigods come with him, sometimes his associates from the spiritual world come with him, and so on. So the main thing is to want to develop that pure devotional desire to engage in the Lord's service anywhere, everywhere, no matter what. And so we can engage in the Lord's service. That's the perfection. Is Brahmajyoti considered the cusp between the material and spiritual world? Cusp. Well, I'm not even sure what cusp means. What does cusp mean? The whole material world, it's called the Mahatattva, where all the universes are existing out there. It's also in the Brahmajyoti, I believe. And the Brahmajyoti is Krishna's effulgence, so the Brahmajyoti is also there in the spiritual world because he's there. His effulgence goes everywhere. Okay, if there's no other questions, and then I think we'll end. next Sunday we'll another volume of Caitanya-caritamrita. I'm not sure if we have the following when it comes right after this or not, but we will do that. So thank you very much, and tomorrow Srimad Bhagavatam. Maybe we'll read something because the day after tomorrow is the festival for Lord Ramachandra. Maybe we'll read something different tomorrow because of that. I'm not sure yet. Um, and then we'll continue our normal program after that, after the festival. So we'll end here for now. Srila Prabhupada Ki.